Hello, welcome back to A Drunk History of Middle-earth. My name is Chris, and I'm going to ever so slightly adjust my volume level. There we go. My name is Chris.
And my name's Rebecca.
And we are a married couple, and we talk about Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, everything to do with the world of Middle-earth, in a very easy, relaxed way to understand. There'll be some things, if you've only seen the films, you'll learn. And if you've only read the books, but you can't get through some of the denser parts, you'll also learn something. So the point is, you come here, we talk about it like we're explaining it to you in a pub, and that's just how the fuck we roll. So, today we're going to talk about the Witch King of Angmar. What do you know about him?
He's a mad bastard.
He is a mad bastard.
Is he the one that's black with spiky headdress? Well, it's part of his body, but very spiky.
Yeah. He's the one who Eowyn kills.
He rides on that Balrog.
It's not a Balrog.
Is it? A fell beast.
A fell beast, yeah. I'm glad you caught that one, because that wouldn't have been very nice for you to fucking come all this way and then you're still calling a fell beast a Balrog. Yes, so we're going to talk about the Witch King of Angmar today. We're going to talk, we're going to mainly talk about his history, because there is a lot of history to do with the Witch King of Angmar. He, after doing this research, and I had a bigger understanding than I thought, because I was like, oh yeah, all this is familiar, but seeing just how much he's involved with in the Third Age in particular is crazy. Like, there is a whole kingdom, and hence why he was called a king. Before that, right, before we talk about the big spooky lad, I do want to just make you aware of something. This is for the listeners, it's not for Rebecca. So, I want to put a call out and kindly ask for people's support, right? In September, I'm going to be running a half marathon for Guide Dogs UK, for a charity which allows people with visual impairments to receive trained canine companions. And I'm a big fat lad. And what I'm going to be doing between now and September is I like to run anyway, but I'm going to be suffering for charity, right? Is I'm going to be running 13.1 miles on the day from Newcastle to South Shields. And I'm going to ask for any donations. Now, we don't monetize this podcast, and I've got no immediate plans to monetize this podcast. So if you ever have, and people have asked me, like, have you got a coffee or a buy me a coffee thing or whatever? No. But if you want to support me, in the link in this episode's description and in the bio on our Instagram page, there is a link to our link tree, and from there you can see the fundraiser. Now, I've already had some very kind donations already, so there are people out there who want to support, and I'm very, very thankful for that. So thank you for everyone who's supported me. But if you want to support the podcast, it's for a good cause, it's for charity, and you'll be making a tangible difference. The good thing about Just Giving is that every week the money goes to the charity, so it's nobody's holding on to it. Nobody's holding on to any money. It's as soon as you donate within a week, that is then with the charity. And if you are in the UK, can I ask that you do gift aid as well? And what gift aid is, if you're not aware, is that for every £1 you donate, the charity themselves can claim back 25 pence extra from the government. And considering that the government is full of rich cunts who are squeezing us to death at the moment, I can't...
Gifted the fuck out of this.
Yeah, gifted the fuck out of it. Yeah, please. So it's a cause very close to my heart. I'm a big fat lad. I'm aiming to lose 10 kilos as well for it and improve my time. But I'll be honest, I'll be happy with just not dying.
And as a previous employee...
Yeah, Becky used to work for the Guide Dogs.
I do know and value and can support the Guide Dogs fully in what they do and the mission, and just from experience seeing everything that they do. If only our little puppy was a guide dog, because he'd be very well behaved and not scratching about on the floor right now. But yeah, it's a fantastic cause that really changes people's lives dramatically, and hopefully it doesn't come to us. But if it did, it's so lovely that there's that support there for people in an unknown world.
So I was watching a video the other day. We'll get on to the episode in a minute. And I was watching a video the other day, and someone had commented on the video saying that I don't understand why people wouldn't want more facilities and more services for disabled people, because it's a demographic that you could join at any time. And the video was
our world isn't accessible whatsoever.
Well, there was the video I was watching was of adult-sized changing mats in toilets, and I'd never fucking considered that. And then I was reading the comments, and people were saying, like, it's really embarrassing when I've got to change my adult daughter in the car or on the floor, and my heart, it was one of those times where my heart broke for something I had no concept was ever an issue. And then I read the comment of, it's a demographic you could join at any time. So, my point being, I don't monetize this podcast, and if you ever do want to support us, or you want to support a charity, you want to do your good deed, and then balance it out by kicking someone to death, then at least, come and donate to us. I've also started a new series on the Instagram as well, where I will, off the top of my head, after every run, I record a short video where I'll talk about Tolkien. Like, I'll just drop a small fact because the Instagram reels are 90 seconds.
You're not going to show your face, are you?
Yeah.
Jeez. Good luck, everyone.
Fuck off. So after every run, I've already done it anyway.
You sweaty mess.
Right. After every run, I'll drop a little bit of Tolkien knowledge, and we'll have a little conversation. And it's just a way to let people know that I am doing the training. If you go to the Just Giving page as well, every time I do a training run, Strava syncs it, so you'll see about roughly 3 runs a week from me while I'm training. But anyway, enough said. On with the show. So the Witch King of Angmar, pretty fucking scary dude. To be fair, he's a bastard.
A mad bastard.
He's not a mad bastard. No. He is Sauron's most feared servant, and for good reason. One thing I want to cover off first that we're good before we get into this, and I am pleased I can use this knowledge because I discovered it and I was talking about it months ago, and now I can really talk about it. So you hear Sauron referred to as the Necromancer, right? In The Hobbit, he's called the Necromancer.
Yeah.
But then I imagine that after when we've done all our episodes about the Silmarillion and stuff, you've learned that spirits go to the Hall of Mandos when they die.
Yeah.
Or like elves are reincarnated, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Because humans leave Arda entirely, they go to be with Eru Ilúvatar, so their souls aren't kicking around. It turns out, and this is something that everybody has to understand before we move on with the show, right? We're going to talk magic and spirits and wights, or wraiths. When you die, some people, they can refuse the call of Mandos. They can refuse to go to the halls of Mandos. And if they do that, that in itself is a sign of essentially like badness or evilness, that you refuse that call to the afterlife. And if you do that and you resist the summons to Mandos, then you become what's called houseless. And when you are houseless, you are
doomed to wander.
You're doomed to wander, yeah. And there's some spirits that choose to wander because they're evil and they want to take over bodies and use them. Like possession exists in Tolkien, like almost like demonic possession. When we talk about Sauron as a necromancer and the Witch King as like a wraith and stuff like that, I want anybody, because some people might come into this episode and they'll have listened to all previous episodes and be like, oh, well, hang on, Chris, you said that they go to the halls of Mandos and then like humans go beyond the circles of the world. It's all a choice. And I want to put this out there that Feanor didn't resist the call of Mandos. He went, so he saw the wisdom in it, because to not go to the hall of Mandos leaves you open to people like Sauron or Morgoth or the Witch King of Angmar to use you for their own ends.
So you're not saying that it's just people who predominantly already follow them people. It's just people who are just like crazy, just like, nah,
yeah,
don't fancy it.
Yeah, could be.
But then that leads them to potential.
That leaves it to either
product.
You will wander the earth as a spirit, or you will be used and subjugated by one of the big bads.
Yeah. So
yeah, not just men as well. Elves are subject to this. Like elves did it, particularly Nandor elves and Avari elves, because there's no reference, I don't think, to any high elves, like i.e. the Calaquendi or anything like elves. Basically, elves who went to Aman or elves who went to Valinor. None of them are recorded as refusing the call to Mandos. Like even Feanor went. Like he went to Mandos and he'll be there till the end of time, but he still went because he knew the alternative was that Morgoth would make a very good meal of your soul. So I just wanted to start on the footing, because the first thing we're going to discuss is that the Witch King of Angmar is a wraith. He is undead. He is one of the spirits that has refused the call to Mandos, and because he's so subjugated by Sauron's will, and as are the other nine Nazgûl, that they are stuck with no afterlife. Like they exist in the unseen world. That's why they're invisible.
So is he the king of... So are the Nazgûl like the top tier, and he's the king of the Nazgûl and everything below it?
Well, he's a king because he had his own kingdom. But I'll come on to that in a second.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. So Tolkien himself said, there was a essay I read called The Laws and Customs of the Eldar, or Among the Eldar, whatever. And it said, not all of these are kindly... so he's talked about spirits that refuse, like spirits that haunt the world. Not all of these are kindly or unstained by the shadow. Indeed, the refusal of the summons is in itself a sign of taint. It is therefore a foolish and perilous thing, besides being a wrong deed forbidden justly by the appointed rulers of Arda. If the living seek to commune with the unbodied, though the houseless, i.e. the spirits, may desire it, especially the most unworthy among them. For the unbodied spirits wandering in the world are those who have at least refused the door of life and remain in regret and self-pity. Some are filled with bitterness, grievance, and envy. Some were enslaved by the Dark Lord and do his work still, though he himself is gone. They will not speak truth or wisdom. To call on them is folly. To attempt to master them and make them servants of one's own will is wickedness. So there Tolkien sets out that you can fuck with spirits, but it is a sign of evil. Like, no good person messes with spirits. And I mean, I suppose you could jump to that. You could jump to the Catholic idea of occultism being quite bad, you know? So I just wanted to talk about that. And then there's also instances where they'll try and seek to possess a body. Sauron did this when he was creating werewolves, where he took evil spirits and put them inside the body of the wolves that he'd bred. And then he also does the same thing when he teaches his followers to do similar types of magic. And then there's another quote that I want to get on, is that some say the houseless desire bodies, though they're not willing to seek them lawfully by submission to the judgment of Mandos. So this is people who want to be reborn, but they're too evil. They know that Mandos won't let them. If they can, the peril of communing with them is therefore not only the peril of being deluded by fantasies of lies, there is peril also of destruction. For one of the hungry houseless, if it is admitted to the friendship of the living, may seek to eject the fear from the body, and in a contest for mastery the body may be gravely injured, even if he is not wrested from its rightful habitant. Or the houseless may plead for shelter, and if it is admitted, will then seek to enslave its host and use both his will and body for his own purposes. It's said that Sauron did these things and taught his followers how to achieve them. So that's what I wanted to set out, and this seemed like the best place to do it, that the concept of what like necromancy and magic is in terms of like dark magic and dark lord stuff, is that you're messing with an evil person messing with evil spirits. Any questions before we move on?
No, I did have some that popped up in my head, but I feel like they're going to be answered.
So, the Witch King of Angmar. Who was he? We don't know. You don't?
Oh, great.
No, nobody
knows.
You
okay.
Don't. The thing about
End of podcast?
Yeah. I was saying to someone before we recorded that the thing I like about the Nazgûl is that they seem to exist solely within the story. Like, they are these terrifying servants of Sauron. They don't seem to be like super symbolic or like a real world analog to much that I can think of. It's just kind of like, these are good story devices, good characters, and good plot people in the story. And yeah, I like that. So the Witch King of Angmar was the leader of the Nazgûl. He was the chief among Sauron's servants. So that would put him like third in line to Morgoth. So Morgoth, Sauron, Witch King. And he was utterly terrifying to behold. Like, one of their chief powers was inspiring terror through people. And they had like the Black Breath, which would instill madness and eventually death in people. Like, it'd make them super depressed. And he was also utterly a slave to Sauron's will. And he met his end at the same time. He met his end after fulfilling a prophecy. And he was killed famously by Eowyn and Meriadoc Brandybuck. So he was a wraith. And a wraith in Tolkien's world is a spirit that lives in the unseen world, that exists in the unseen world. So there's two worlds in Tolkien. There's the seen world and the unseen world, right? The seen world is the physical, and the unseen world is, well, it's unseen. It's where like the spirits are. The Valar and Maiar can choose to walk completely in the unseen world. The elves live half in the seen, half in the unseen. So that elves might have like a really bright presence in the unseen world, where like Glorfindel, for example, who we're going to talk about, he has a very, very big presence in the unseen world, but they're still not quite there because elves are so closely tied with the world, the seen world, the physical world. And the wraiths, so whenever anybody who's not Sauron, essentially, or like a Maiar or something, puts on the ring, they are shifted into the unseen world. And that's shown in the films by like the like all the wavy shit. And that's what makes them look invisible, is because they've shifted into the unseen world. And if you can't see the unseen world, to them, they've just gone invisible.
It almost reminds me of HP, when the Death Eaters fizzle and move. Do you know what I mean? That black smoke.
Yeah, that was weird. That's apparition, but that's not how it works in the books at all.
Well, that's what I imagine.
Yeah, it's just go with what Peter Jackson did in the films, and you'll be all right. So yeah, so when everyone, whenever like Bilbo or Frodo put on the ring, they shift into the unseen world. But people who can see in the unseen realm can still see them. So like Sauron, I think the Nazgûl the Nazgûl can, and probably Tom Bombadil, who it's a shame that you've not read the books because Tom Bombadil comes up a couple of times in this story.
Not read the books yet. Maybe it's before I die.
Yeah, whatever. So the Nazgûl lived in the unseen world. That is why if you took off their robes, there'd be nothing there.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, you'd feel an invisible rod smack you in the chin if you took their robes off. but which I wonder why. Like, what's the point of them putting on the robes? Like, I'd have just kept my robes off and just be invisible everywhere. Like,
I would just wander naked.
Yeah, just sneak. Like, imagine if you could have just snuck up on Frodo, invisible.
So this is a question. All of the people that live in the unseen world, can they see each other in the unseen world?
Yes.
Oh, that makes it a bit different. But if no one could see you, even in the unseen world, totally be going naked.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway, although I think the reason they might have the robes on
is because they've got massive dongs and they're very shy.
No. You just see her slapping on their thighs as they walked. No, it's because like there were senior figures, like they were commanders in the army as well, so they will have had to be seen to, and they will have had to be seen to inspire.
Be proper.
Yeah, to inspire their troops. Whether they're inspiring terror or hope, I don't know, but they are inspiring something with their troops. That's a little bit like just to set up that they are wraiths. That's what wraiths are, and that's what it all works. Now, the background in general, we have we can kind of guess a couple of things, but for instance, we don't know the names. We know one of the 9 Nazgûl.
Is that white guy who rides out on a horse?
That's Gandalf.
No, the white guy with the massive teeth, and he's like blind.
That's the mouth of Sauron, who is not one of the Nazgûl.
That's been a long time, that episode.
Because if he was one of the Nazgûl, you wouldn't be able to see him.
I'll have to...
If you could describe his teeth, he's not a Nazgûl.
But then how do we see this black guy?
Because they've got black robes on.
Right, okay. Okay, yeah, I get it.
Black robes.
Filled with emptiness.
Covering invisible bodies.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So that does mean that he's got no clothes on in the other world.
He's got a robe on.
So he's got a robe on in the other world, and you can see his body and figure. But in our world, he's invisible, so he goes to his little room and he goes into the wardrobe and he puts on his black hat and black cape.
I don't know how clothes work.
Does he have a royal dresser?
Unfortunately, you've come across one part that Tolkien didn't seem to write about, which is how do clothes work in the spirit world. Right,
well that's weak, right? Because you know how I like supernatural things and documentaries and series. This has always been a big question of mine when werewolves change and then they come walking out of the bushes or out of the woods with clothes. Well, your clothes have just ripped off when you've transformed. So do you just plant clothes all around the edge of forests?
That entirely depends on your source for that. That entirely depends on what part of fiction you're looking at for that, because some do. Some wear stretchy pants. Or some wake up naked. Or some go, they end up back at home at the end of the night.
So what happens to this guy?
He's invisible all the time. Look at me. Look at me. Rebecca, look at me. He is invisible. Say it after me. He is invisible.
He is invisible.
All of the time.
All of the time.
Okay? That doesn't change.
I'm just confused.
There is 2 worlds. The unseen and the seen.
So do you think when he goes to bed or he goes for a soiree, a private shenanigan, he takes off his black clothes so he's in private?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay.
Fucking hell.
I'm trying to get my head round it.
I'm telling you how little we know about these people in general. We don't know their name, and you're like, oh, well, what about his wardrobe? Did you think Tolkien was the fucking first person to do Queer Eye?
He's probably...
That all he wrote about was the clothes?
He's probably the most stylish in the whole film, to be honest.
Right. We don't know much. We don't know the Witch King's real name. There is one Nazgûl who we do know the name of, and he's called Camul. and he's called the Shadow of the East. That's all we know. And Camul is the second in command to the Witch King. And as far as names and identities go, that's pretty much it. Camul was maybe an Easterling, but, you know. And again, like I said, I like that they exist solely, like they exist within the story for the story. They don't seem to be like representative of anything.
And these are all different races. You can be any race, and you've changed into like a high commander of.
No, these are humans.
Oh, right, okay. So that the Witch King was a human, went bad.
Yes, because he got one of the 9 rings of power.
Okay.
So 9 to the men, who above all else desired power. 7 to the dwarf lords. 3 to the elves. 1 for the Dark Lord. This is the one who got the Nazgûl are the ones who had the 9 rings of power, and they became utterly subservient to Sauron. So, we can make some educated guesses about the Witch King of Angmar. One of them being that he was probably one of the Black Númenóreans, and Black Númenórean means a human from the Isle of Númenor who worshipped Morgoth.
Were those the ones that came on the boat?
The faithful. The King's Men, the faithful, sorry, they were the ones who escaped, so that's like who Aragorn's descended from.
Okay.
But there were others who worshipped Morgoth but were off the island at the time that the fall happened. They're called the Black Númenóreans. So like they lived in places like Umbar, which is like the pirate like base and stuff like that. Tolkien stated that 3 Black Númenóreans became Nazgûl. So the Witch King was probably one of these. We also know that the mouth of Sauron was probably a Black Númenórean as well. So that means at least 4 Black Númenóreans were in the service of Sauron. Which, so there is some and the mouth of Sauron can't remember his own name. He's that old. And Sauron taught him like loads of magic and stuff like that. So there is precedence of Sauron taking human servants and teaching them things.
That makes them the weaker race then.
Why? Because
you don't see any dwarf or elven people or hobbits.
Yeah, fair dues. Yeah. Fair. With the Rings of Power, it said that the dwarves don't bend to other people's wills.
Yeah.
They just went insane
Very
and greedy.
Passionate and focused.
They went insane and greedy. And the elves took their rings off as soon as they realised what was happening and hid them. So like they were never going to be
have great
corrupted.
Introspection.
Yeah. So there's also I couldn't find much of this, but I wanted to mention it. There's some speculation that he might have been a prince of Númenor from the line of Elros, called Isilmur, who he wasn't king himself. His sister was the queen, but he died, and the queen didn't have any kids, so his son became king. But I could not find where the fuck that speculation came from. So I'm just mentioning it here in case someone's listening and be like, oh yeah, I know that. Let me know if you know why that there's speculation that the Witch King of Angmar
was one of my sleepless nights.
Is someone called Isilmur, yeah. So as I mentioned, the Nazgûl wield the 9 rings, as the Witch King is a wielder of one of the 9 rings. He became utterly subservient. Now, an important thing to note about the 9 rings of power for men is that they weren't given, like, not all of the Nazgûl might have been evil at the start. It's, regardless of how good or evil you were, they are now utterly subservient to Sauron, so they're evil by extension. Like, they cannot resist his will. And he gave them to 9 men so that they became great in their own times, like power and wealth. And then over the time, like, they got the unnatural long life. Like, not true immortality, but like just extending your essence, like Bilbo says, like butter script over too much bread. They got the power and glory and all that, but at the same time, they became more and more subservient to Sauron's will. So when he dominated them, they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And he would have received this ring from Sauron sometime after Sauron attacked Eregion, which was an old elvish kingdom in the Second Age, and because that's when the Great Rings were forged. And when he killed Celebrimbor, because the elf smiths, under the tutelage of Sauron, forged the Rings of Power. All like 19 of them. And it will have been some point after this, because he didn't have the rings in his possession beforehand, that he would have given them him. And another note is that there's only certain types of animals that will bear them because like they're ghosts, essentially, like they're wraiths. And the black horses you see are stolen from Rohan and specifically like trained for the Nazgûl. And I just wanted to slot that in. But the ring gave them it. So when the men got the Witch King got his ring and the other 8 got theirs, it would give them the power of invisibility at first, because eventually it would just take them into the Wraith world anyway. Unnaturally long lives, like I mentioned, bring them power and riches, and then also be dominated by Sauron. There's some back and forth, which I think this is pretty fucking cruel, right? Apparently Sauron had the rings in his possession, so once they were utterly dominated by the rings, he took them back off him and kept them, which must have been some kind of torture if they were that dependent on them. So like, it's just been a pure cunt there, I think.
He's like waving the crack in front of the faces of
the
addicted.
It's just pretty shitty, that, isn't it? Yeah. Are you ready to hear about some history of the Witch King?
Yes. I feel like this episode, I know you've said that you don't have loads of information about it, but I feel like it's making my mind tick in different directions, which we would never cover on the podcast. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, wow, so does that mean this? And yeah, very interesting because we don't have the information.
So, we don't have much information about him as a person, right? Or his identity. There is a lot of history in this episode, though.
I think that's maybe why I'm enjoying it.
There is a lot of like descriptions of battles and stuff like that, and like political maneuverings.
So you're not going to pull out the language later?
There's not that much language in this episode.
Foo!
Yeah. So anyway, the Kingdom of Angmar, which the etymology behind it is quite interesting, is that Angmar means iron home. And I'm aware the first thing I've just said after I said there's not much language is tell you about the language, but no, there's not much. So Angmar means iron home.
So Angban
means is iron hells.
Iron sex.
Fuck off, Angban. Stop it. Angband means iron hells, and the chain that Melkor is wrapped up with when he gets arrested by the Valar is Angainor, which I can't remember what it means, but it's iron something.
An iron gynecology appointment.
Oh, fuck off. Iron heart, angina. Right, so the Kingdom of Angmar was established in the year 1300 of the Third Age, or around then, and its capital was a place called Carn-dûm. It lay in the far north of the Misty Mountains. Now, if you look at our map there, can you see right at the top of the Misty Mountains where it kind of bends back a little towards the west?
Yes.
That's where it is. And it's far to the northeast of the Shire, and it's, like I mentioned, right at the top where the mountains bend slightly to the west, because this is there's two little spurs of mountains, the Angmar Mountains, and there's the Etinmoors, like with the right at the top of the Misty Mountains, right? So this, and it existed between these two places, is where Angmar was. And the Etinmoors it's quite an unusual place, but it just means high barren land, and it's notable as being a land as where like a lot of trolls congregated. Like it's to the point where it's called like the Troll Fells.
Nice. Which
is pretty interesting. Aragorn calls it the Troll Fells, and I thought there was reference to it in The Hobbit about like the trolls wandering down out of the Etinmoors, but I think it's only in Lord of the Rings. But I think in the Hobbit films, they might say like they wandered down out of the moors. Fuck knows. So the kingdom was established after Sauron became stronger again in the Third Age. So as a quick recap for Sauron. First Age, servant of Morgoth. End of the First Age, says, I am so sorry, Valar. He says it to Eonwë, who's the greatest of the Maiar. Eonwë says, I don't have the power to pardon or punish you. Go back to Valinor and throw yourself at their mercy. He says, nah. Hides. Second Age starts to think the Valar have abandoned Middle-earth, so he starts to do what he wants. Eventually, he falls foul of Númenor, becomes advisor to the king, is responsible for Númenor's downfall, is destroyed in the downfall, and fucks off back to Middle-earth with the ring after causing the downfall of Numenor, Sauron the bastard. Third Age starts to gather his strength again, because now he can't ever take on fair form again. So in the Second Age as well, before the downfall of Numenor, he was responsible for the Rings of Power being forged, and he tried to deceive the elves of Eregion. So like Celebrimbor, Galadriel. Galadriel saw him for what he was and was like, "Get to fuck." Gil-galad and Celebrimbor. Ooh, I know Celebrimbor and the smiths of the Myrmidine, who were like the jewel smiths of Eregion. They loved him. He taught them how to do the Rings of Power. Not sure how Gil-galad felt about him, but I know Galadriel was like, no. Because he told them he was like a emissary of the Valar, and they believed him. Some of them believed him. Galadriel didn't, though. Anyway, so, by the Third Age, this now, he's the War of the Last Alliance, right at the end of the Second Age, where Elendil, Gil-galad die fighting Sauron. Barad-dûr gets fucked up again. Mordor gets fucked up, and there's peace for a bit. But now we're back again, where he's starting to get stronger again. 1,300 years into the Third Age of Middle-earth. So, the Witch King comes north because he wants to wipe out the Dunedain. And do you remember who the Dunedain are?
I do not don't.
You don't remember.
I do not don't. I actually can't recall. Apologies.
The Dunedain are the people who Aragorn belongs to. It's men of the West.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. So the Dunedain, these are all the people who escaped. These are the faithful who escaped Numenor during the downfall. And
Can you not be serious for 1 second and just tell everyone how good that joke was?
No, it was a really good joke. It was really.
You didn't even flinch.
I didn't.
You just went. Huh.
I thought.
I thought I was quite funny.
No, it's really funny. I can't. This fucking
weak.
Yeah.
Just bear with us as Christopher opens his.
Oh my god.
Local beer.
Fucking made by a local idiot. Right. Sorry for that, folks. Right. Yeah, the Dunedain. Good joke. Yeah. Do you know what you're making me think of? Do you know Tubbs from League of Gentlemen?
Yeah, I can't.
Can I have a can of Coke? I can't.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Right.
I don't.
The Dunedain are the men of the West. It's Elendil, Isildur, etc., etc. They came over from Numenor. They built the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. Right. The important thing here is that Gondor is the southern kingdom. Arnor is the North Kingdom. Now, what's happened, though, since the War of Last Alliance, which is 1,300 years? Isildur has been dead for like 1,300 years, right? When the ring was lost. There were multiple kings of Gondor, multiple kings of Arnor, and it essentially became two kingdoms, right? And it's not reunited until Aragorn, so we've still got a long way to go. But the reason that the Witch King came north is because after the death of the 10th king of Arnor, who was called Earendur, after the death of the 10th king of Arnor, he had 3 sons. And lo and behold, they all started fighting over inheritance. So the kingdom of Arnor was split into 3 separate kingdoms. These kingdoms became known as Arthedain, Cardolan, and Ruthour, and that splintered it. Sauron would have saw this as a chance, right? Sent his Witch King, go and do something. So he settled what would become known as the Kingdom of Angmar, and this is where he started bringing a lot of bad people to him, like orcs, evil men, trolls, wargs. He started building a force, and this is a kingdom. And it's said that that nobody knew that he was a wraith and nobody knew he was a Nazgûl. They just thought that some bad guys settle in a kingdom, but the land's big enough that everybody could. And these 3 kingdoms, what made it worse in the year 1300 of the Third Age, is that they all argued a lot. So they all argued a lot because their borders of their kingdom all met at Weathertop. Do you know where they are in Fellowship when they're having the fire and the Nazgûl attack them? And Weathertop used to be, it's called Amon Sul, and it used to hold a Palantir, and it was one of the most important places in that part of the world, right? And the borders of the kingdoms all met here, so they used to bicker and fight over them all the time. And it was that he wanted to capitalize on, like the Witch King wanted to get in there. So, and like I mentioned, Arnor wouldn't be reunited again till Aragorn. And so it was a perfect time to strike. So he acted just like Sauron, which I think it's like a bit of a one-trick pony. He just sent spies in he sent spies everywhere. Like Morgoth did it, Sauron did it. He sent spies everywhere, and they were particularly successful in the smallest of the three kingdoms, which was Ruthour. And this culminated in 109 years later. This all takes place over a long period of time, by the way, right? So in the year 1409 of the Third Age, Ruthour was taken over by a coup of men loyal to the Witch King. So one of the three kingdoms was taken out of commission. And the whole point of all of this was to kill the Dunedain, was to destroy them. And then at the same time, Cardolan was ravaged. And the last prince, I think, was killed as well. So in one pretty much fell swoop, you've took out two of the three kingdoms. Arthedain is the biggest one, but it's still pretty fucked up. So Cardolan's raised, Ruthour's switched sides, or like saying neutral, locked up in its own battles, blah blah blah. But the Palantir, so they're all fighting over Weathertop. Like that's where one of the princes is killed, and it's like the big battle is at Weathertop. And this is where Weathertop gets raised. So when we see it as a ruin, it was ruined in this battle. And the Palantir is saved and removed to the capital of Arthedain, which is a place called Fornost. But things are looking very, very bleak for like the humans, essentially. So the Witch King presses his advantage, and he was a good strategist, like he was a great strategist, and he lays siege to Fornost. And things are looking very fucking grim here. Like, it looks like this is the last kingdom in the last city of the north holding out. But one of the leader of Arthedain, he dies in that battle at Aframon Sul, and his son comes to power. And his son is only 18-year-old, and he's called Arathor. And what he does to avenge his dad, Arvaleg, is he pushes back with the help of Círdan the Shipwright, who you'll remember from our Teleri episodes. So Círdan and like other elves we've mentioned, they get a good reckoning over these spans of years. Like this is where they're doing really good shit. So Círdan, with the help of Círdan, starts to push back the Witch King. They're then bolstered by reinforcements, with Elrond leading an army of elves from Rivendell and Lothlorien.
Ah, you didn't expect that, did you?
So that means that the Witch King, he's pushed back and he's defeated, but he's not killed. Not yet. So that's in the year 1409 of the Third Age. So we're still about 200 years from the Shire being settled. But we've already had, so he's made one attempt to destroy the Kingdom of Men in the north, which would significantly weaken any help going to the south, which would ultimately help Sauron, because at this point Sauron fucking hates humans, right? So he went back to Angmar, sulking. And it's about this time as well that you might remember this from our Hobbit episode. The Stewart hobbits, they fled, and what I mentioned in our episode, that they fled the kingdom, like the Witch King of Angmar, because he was around that area. And it was this point. So this is where the Stewards, some of them go back over the Misty Mountains, some of them go towards the Shire. The ones that go over the Misty Mountains, they settle the Gladden Fields, and they are the ancestors of Gollum. That's those hobbits. And it was because they were escaping the Witch King.
Nice little full circle moment. Is that nice beer?
Yeah, it is. It's Tyneside Brown. Oh, it's the Hadrian Border Brewery. Is that the one near Sycamore Gap?
Possibly.
Anyway, so that was the year 1409. And then there's a gap of a couple of hundred years, right? And in that time, there was a great plague in the year 1636. And it was swept across the whole land coming from the east. And it said that it was from Sauron. But it's one of those historical events that would need its own episode to talk about the Great Plague of Middle-earth, unfortunately. But it was, a lot of people suffered really badly for it. The Shire really suffered at the hands of this plague. But by the time it made it to Arthedain, it wasn't actually that bad because it started to die out. But as I was researching it, I was like, oh, wow. Wonder what it's like to be minding your own business and then get hit by a fucking plague out of nowhere.
Oh.
Sarcasm.
The best years of my life.
Fuck off. Right. So it's during this time, like around the 1600s, that the last Dunedain in Cardolan died. And it said he was like, he was, the Dunedain were hunted down by the sorcerers working for the Witch King. But it's about this time that the Barrow Whites take up residence in the Barrow Downs. And if you haven't read the books, it would be a bit unfamiliar to you. But the Barrow Whites really fuck up Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin's day on the 28th of September in the year 3018 of the Third Age. Because they leave Tom Bombadil in the Old Forest and they almost immediately walk into a grave. They get trapped by evil spirits in a grave. And they're going to kill them until Tom Bombadil rescues them. And the Barrow Whites were inhabiting the barrow of one of the last princes of Cardolan. So it's from this war with Angmar that directly impacts Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin. And Tom Bombadil rescues them, blah, blah, blah. But it's from this that he also gives them blades that were specifically designed to fight the Witch King of Angmar.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So...
another full circle moment.
In it. It's also... in some... Right, this is interesting because, I couldn't get a proper reference to it. There is a manuscript out there, an alternate version of some parts of Fellowship of the Ring. And in this rare manuscript, it belongs to a museum somewhere, right? Apparently, it details the Witch King setting a trap for Frodo there by spending 3 days in the Barrow Downs stirring up the evil spirits and like having a fight with some rangers of the north, like killing them, either to fuel the spell or just because like they're trying to protect against evil shit. But I couldn't find the exact source, but there is some alternate versions of the story where the Barrow Whites kidnapping them is because of the Witch King doing like Witch King stuff. And there's a note from Unfinished Tales which says, in notes on the movements of the Black Riders at that time, it is said that the Black Captain, i.e. the Witch King, stayed there for some days and the Barrow Whites were roused, and all things of evil spirit hostile to elves and men were on the watch with malice in the Old Forest and on the Barrow Downs. So that's just a little aside that there is some versions where the Barrow Whites are because of the Witch King. So, yeah, interesting. So then the next we see of the actual... going back to the timeline, the next we see of the Witch King is about 500 years later, in 1974 of the Third Age, where he attacks Arthedain again. So he attacks Fornost, and this time he's successful. It falls, and he lives there for a bit. He lives at Fornost, which is pretty fucking cheeky. But he does what Morgoth did. He gets overconfident and overextends himself. Help was sent for by like the people in Fornost before the Witch King won. They sent requests to the elves, to Gondor, help us, blah blah blah, and they came too late to save Fornost, but they did come. And the Witch King, instead of sitting behind all the fortifications that he has knowledge of because he's laid siege to the city, and now he's on the inside of it, he decides to press the attack. So he goes out to attack the people who have come to help the North. And these are Gondor, like a massive fleet from Gondor comes, like as much as they could spare. Elves, led by Glorfindel, I think. Yeah, the men were led by Eärnur, who would become the last king of Gondor until Aragorn. And then Círdan summoned everyone that would come. So, elves, men. And even the hobbits, they send a company of archers. And this is mentioned, I think, right in the beginning of Lord of the Rings.
Never expected archers,
Oh,
archery to be part of Hobbits' little bag
they are
of tricks.
They are uncanny marksmen. It's said in the books that...
It's because it's for food.
Yeah, well, no. It's not. It's said in the books that all the animals in the Shire, like foxes and that, who would bother your crops and stuff, they've learned to get out of sight quickly if they see a hobbit.
That's what I mean. It's all to protect their crops and...
But yeah, there is a throwaway line where it says that if you'd ask, like in their history of the Shire, they did say that once they sent a company of archers to go and fight in a war, but none of them ever came back, which is a shame. So yeah, it was at this fight in Fornos, like one of the last fights, that Círdan summoned everyone who would come. Eärnur, the last king of Gondor, the hobbits, and some elves. The Witch King was overconfident. He pressed his attack, and there was a battle on the plain between Nenúial, which means Lake of Twilight, in Sindarin, or in the common tongue, Westron, it was called Lake Evendim. And this was a massive lake. It was fucking huge. It was 100 miles north of the Shire, and this is where the last battle took place. And the result is the Witch King gets fucked. So he goes out to attack. Instead of allowing them to lay siege, which he might have been able to turn around and win, he thought, no, I can do this. So he goes out he goes out and he sends out his armies and what have you. And he realises he's getting absolutely slammed, so he tries to retreat. But when he tries to retreat, Eärnur and his horsemen from Gondor cut him off. So it then turns into like a rout. Like it goes from a retreat and like a defeat into everyone's getting fucking killed. So in the last act of desperation, the Witch King himself comes out to fight. And he goes to fight Eärnur and kill him. But Eärnur's horse bolts because he's so scared, the horse. And the Witch King laughs because he's like, you're a fanny, you're running away, blah, 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 blah. And he goes to pursue him, but then Glorfindel, one of the best elves who have ever lived, he died in the First Age at the fall of Gondolin fighting a fucking Balrog when he was helping the survivors escape. And because he's such a good dude, he's a Noldor as well. He's in Mandos for a very short time, gets re-embodied, and then gets sent back to Middle-earth in the Second Age. So he's a good dude. And it's only because Glorfindel's there that the Witch King flees, and Eärnur goes to chase him. And Glorfindel says that like he makes like a famous prophecy, which will be fulfilled later. So Eärnur goes to chase him, but Glorfindel stays him and says, "He will not return to this land. Far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of man will he fall," which is what we call in the business foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think that's really, really nice of him to do that because it makes that guy's plans like he's like, yeah, okay, I can chill now. I know why it's not me. I can rest.
Yeah, except hold that thought.
Oh no.
So the Witch King fled back to Mordor, right? He's gone from the north now. Like, this was a decisive victory for... Well, it was a decisive victory in name, but the fact is that the Kingdom of the North has fell now. There's no more Arnor for a long time now. And we see a steady decline. So the Witch King flees back to Mordor. This is in 1974 of the Third Age, not our age, and gathers the other 8 Nazgûl. So by the year, and he gathers them to him by the year 1980 of the Third Age. So then Angmar and Khârn Dûm are now just like lost/abandoned. The good guys don't want to go near it. The bad guys daren't. Like, they've lost it. It's not strategic anymore. It's not strategic anymore. So in the year 2000 of the Third Age, so we're still 1,019 years away from the ring being destroyed at this point, remember? So in the year 2000, the Nazgûl lay siege to a city called Minas Ithil. And do you remember from the films the big city where all the army comes out of and it shoots green up into the sky?
Yeah.
That's Minas Ithil.
So pretty.
Yeah, it's called corpse light, that colour. Minging. But
I just found like it. One fine day in the Emerald City.
Is that from Wicked?
Yeah.
I saw a trailer for that the other day and it looked shit.
It'll be really shit, but the
Yeah.
musical's banging.
Yeah.
I've seen it like 4 times.
Do you know
Not on my own choice because I like to see different things, but when you're at school, they just always do school trips to see Wicked. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Les Mis ruined me because that's a good film and a good stage show. Like, it's a fucking fantastic stage show.
Sweeney Todd's a
Oh, yeah, Sweeney
good
Todd's
film
good.
and a good stage show.
I've not seen Grease on stage, but I expect good things.
You haven't seen Sweeney Todd either, but
Oh, yeah.
it's good.
I saw the...
You've not seen a lot of things on stage, Christopher.
I saw The Office US do a rendition of Sweeney. Right, anyway, right. In the year 2000 of the Third Age, the Nazgûl laid siege to Minas Ithil. And Minas Ithil, I need to just to lay it out for you, right? See here on our map of Middle-earth, our Jeff Murray map.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So, he's got one called At the Movies. Actually, his art that I really want. It's from like the 70s up till now. Like all the movie icons, and they're all sat in a theater together. It's unbelievable.
Do you know what I'd like
Looks
to do?
real.
A horror one.
Yeah, well, like Freddy and Jason and all that are in there. Yeah, I'll show you it later. Anyway, right. So you've got Minas Tirith there, right?
Yeah.
But if you imagine there's like a line, so you've got Minas Tirith and then up to the Black Gates. Somewhere in the middle, you'd have Osgiliath. And then after that, you've got Minas Ithil, which sits up against like the western. Oh, you can see it there. So can you see where you got Minas Tirith, right?
Yeah.
Then just directly in a line next to it, you've got all those dots crossing the river.
Yeah.
That's Osgiliath.
All right.
Then directly across from that, again, you see the last city in the mountains.
Yeah.
That's Minas Ithil. They were all three Gondor's cities. And Minas Ithil means Tower of the Moon. And it's the twin city of Minas Tirith and Osgiliath sat in the middle. Because Osgiliath used to be the capital of Gondor until, well, we'll come on to it. It was captured after 2 years, was Minas Ithil. And it became Minas Morgul, which is what we know it as in the films.
Yeah.
Which means Tower of Sorcery. And this fucked up the surrounding land. And it put like an aura of fear into the world. Like it made the country bad. Like it made it bad. If that makes sense. Like a bit Lovecraftian. Like the land itself went bad. Just like how Morgoth tainted Arda.
I feel like there's more of a theme of badness from magic than there is goodness in Tolkien. But that might be because of him being a Catholic.
That's interesting because, and I wonder as well, because Galadriel, when Sam says, I'd like to see some more of that elvish magic, or I like your elvish magic, Galadriel's like, I wouldn't call it magic, I just call it art.
Yeah.
So like she refutes it as magic. But we do know that the Catholics weren't a big fan of like occultism and that, were they? So, well, probably.
Yeah, I feel like the magic theme runs harder through the dark powers and the dark forces than it does through normal life.
Well, necromancy is seen as like madness. I've got to say, like, there's in the Fellowship Discord, I have a shorthand saying where like, I can't be asked to explain myself. I'll just put ABC. Always blame Catholicism, and I just type ABC at the end of a message. Like,
I feel like we need to remember this bit.
Yeah, no, it's good. Good
about
good spot.
Magic.
Yeah, good spot. Yeah. So Minas Morgul becomes a Tower of Sorcery, and it fucks up the land, right? And so Gondor have lost like a third of their cities, essentially. That's not good. And well, you don't count like Dol Amroth, I guess, which is another thing entirely. Anyway, in the year 2043, Eärnur, who we remember from the battle at Fornost, he ascends to the throne because he was a prince when he came to the rescue and tried to fight the Witch King, but now he becomes the king, right? He becomes the 33rd king of Gondor. That year, the Witch King sends him a message saying, come and fight me, you big pussy. Eärnur goes and says, away then, takes his top off, goes to fight him. But it's only the steward, the king's steward, Mardil, who can stop him from accepting it. 7 years later, the challenge is issued again. And this time, nobody can stop him. So Eärnur takes a small group of lads and they ride to Minas Morgul. Surprise, surprise. Surprise. They're never fucking seen again. Ever. And so this is the year 2043 of the Third Age. That is the last king of Gondor until Aragorn. This is the time where the stewards begin to rule Gondor because the last king was a fucking moron who couldn't.
So there's nothing really, like, there's no competition. You can do.
The line's broken.
Yeah.
The line's lost. There wasn't really a fight. He dragged them in, tortured them to fuck. He might become a fucking Nazgûl. We don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but he's gone. He's got. What a fucking idiot. My God. Anyway, it goes a bit quiet for the next 1,000 years, right? Except 400 years later, in 2475, the Witch King invades and captures Osgiliath. So that's 2 out of 3 cities now. And because he's been building these armies of like orcs and trolls and blah, blah, blah. They eventually get driven out by the steward at the time called Boromir. Boromir the First. The Boromir we know as Boromir the Second.
Yeah. And
we're 600 years too early for Sean Bean. But this Boromir is our Boromir's namesake because he's a mighty captain, he's a mighty warrior.
Is he sexy?
Yes. Even the Witch King fears him. Like, he's that good of a captain.
Because he's that sexy.
So he drives the Witch King out of Osgiliath, but he's one of the shortest ruling stewards because he suffers a Morgul wound, same as what Frodo does. Do you know when he gets stabbed?
Yeah, and they go into kind of a fever.
So he gets he dies. He dies, and he only rules for 12 years. But he made enough of an impression that he made the Witch King fear him, and he drove him out from Osgiliath. But he still died. Like, but fair dues, right? So then,
worth it.
Yeah. Osgiliath is abandoned by the Witch King in the air, but the area is still proper fucked up because by this point, Osgiliath is ruins. It's in ruin, like they've wrecked it. And it would be retaken by the enemy, like by the Witch King again in the year 3018 of the Third Age. That is the year of Lord of the Rings, right? 3018 and 3019. But the important part is, this all happens off screen. We don't see them take Osgiliath again in the 3018. But that is regarded as the beginning of the War of the Ring. So while so this is June, right? Frodo doesn't leave the Shire until September. So in the June of that year, while Frodo and Sam are still fucking around going to the Green Dragon and that, Osgiliath has been taken, and that's why Boromir sets out after his dream to set out to find Rivendell.
Yeah. All I can hear is, 'cause I've been to the year 3019, nothing's changed.
Right, stop, please. Please stop. Who sings that?
Busted.
Yeah, let's keep it that way.
Do you not? Did you not hear that? Because I totally did. Nothing's changed, but Osgiliath has been taken.
Stop, please. Stop. Right, so we go back a little bit in time. So, 2951 of the Third Age.
Mm-hmm.
This is when Sauron declares himself again. He sends 3 Nazgûl. So this is just after the events of The Hobbit-ish, right? He sends 3 Nazgûl to Dol Guldur in Mirkwood, which is where his old kind of like place was. And by happenstance, that's where they capture Gollum. And they learn, like, Shire, Baggins, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it appears there was some confusion about what the Nazgûl learn here, because they think the Shire is actually where Gollum comes from, which is the Gladden Fields. So that costs them a lot of time in finding the Shire. Well, like fucking 60 years, Jesus Christ. So a lot of but now that we get to this point in time, a lot of it is now spent looking for the ring for the Witch King. He's out and about, and he's just missing the important events. Like, he arrives at Isengard too late to stop Gandalf escaping. After he goes there to consult with Saruman, he gets he arrives just too late to prevent Frodo from escaping his house.
Is it fate?
Probably, yeah. Well, not quite catastrophe, but maybe it's fate. Yeah, they arrive just too late to stop Frodo escaping from the Shire. So one of the big parts they do around this time is they focus on Gandalf and Weathertop. Like, follow Gandalf, watch Weathertop, because they know that, well, Weathertop being a watchtower, and he knows that land really fucking well because he fought up there, that he knows that they'll be along at some point, and he's right. At Weathertop, they fight Gandalf at one point, and then a few days later, they also attack and stab Frodo. Like, the Witch King stabs Frodo. And then there's other things that are doing as well. Like, they run upon Grima Wormtongue, the Witch King. He interrogates him about everything that's going on, and Grima just spills all of the beans. And the Witch King decides about Saruman being a traitor and what have you, and what he's trying to do. And the Witch King lets Grima Wormtongue live because he has some kind of premonition that this would be the downfall of Saruman. And he's right, because he does kill him. They also got a lucky break here when they captured one of Saruman's spies, and they found maps of the Shire which give them what they want. So they know how to find the Shire now. And they then met resistance as the Rangers of the North fought to stop them getting into the Shire. It didn't go well for the Rangers. But yeah, we're right into the War of the Ring now. So after Frodo gets stabbed at Weathertop, there's then that desperate flight towards Rivendell when Aragorn realises he can't heal him. And they meet up with Glorfindel and what have you. But when they get they get chased all the way to the ford of Bruinen, right? And it's there that we see some quite overt magic from the Witch King, which you've not really you don't really see much of in Tolkien. But then it goes back to what you said about magic just being quite bad. But Frodo's got the blade in his shoulder, like he needs fucking healing. Glorfindel gives Frodo his horse as a way to get away, and they all chased him. But the Witch King makes a curious gesture when Frodo draws his sword and he shatters it in his hand, which is it's very weird. And then straight after that, we see some elf magic. When as soon as the Nazgûl go across the water, they get swept away in the fords. And I think I remember from like fucking way back when, like over a year ago now, with our Fellowship of the Ring episode about why evil spirits can't cross water, and it's just a very common folklore thing about evil not being able to cross running water, and it leaks through like into modern fantasy. So we've got it here with the Nazgûl. Then I hate to bring it up again, but Harry Potter, like you can't apparate across large bodies of water. So it's stuff like there's something about magic and water that doesn't quite mix,
which is weird because in like ghostiness, water is like isn't it like a conduit type? It's like it can kind of transport.
I don't know,
apparitions or messages. I don't know. You know, like dowsing.
Oh, like dowsing rods and that.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck knows. I don't know. But you might be interested to learn about this bit. When they all get swept away, their clothes are destroyed.
Ooh.
And so are their horses. So what happens here is the Witch King...
A big orgy. Roman times.
Let me in, I'm trying to fuck. So what happens is the Witch King takes the only surviving horse and says to everyone else, like, I'll be back. And
just getting me outfit.
No. So he takes the last horse and he goes back to Mordor, and then he sends help back north to get the other 8 Nazgûl because they get swept away in the river and just get absolutely like, wrecked. And then they're on foot because the horses are just they're being killed, right? So then we skip forward as we don't see much more because they are now getting ready for war. As well, yeah, they're getting ready for war. So in March of 3019, the last days of the War of the Ring, Minas Morgul was emptied of its armies and they moved to attack Osgiliath and the Pelennor fields before Minas Tirith was under siege. And no enemy like the Witch King had ever assailed Minas Tirith. And he sends out Grond, like the massive hammer.
Grond!
Yeah.
Grond!
And it's like it's emboldened or strengthened by his magics, and it breaks open the gates of Minas Tirith. And there is a quote, there's a passage from the book I'd like to read you. And it says, "In rode the Lord of the Nazgûl. A great black shape against the fires beyond he loomed up, grown to a vast menace of despair. In rode the Lord of the Nazgûl under the archway that no enemy ever yet had passed, and all fled before his face, all save one. There, waiting, silent and still in the space before the gate, sat Gandalf upon Shadowfax. Shadowfax, who alone among the free horses of the earth endured the terror, unmoving, steadfast as a graven image, and wrath the Daemon. You cannot enter here, said Gandalf, and the huge shadow halted. Go back to the abyss prepared for you. Go back, fall into the nothingness that awaits you and your master. Go! The black rider flung back his hood, and behold, he had a kingly crown, and yet upon no head visible was it set. The red fires shone between it and the mantled shoulders vast and dark. From a mouth unseen there came a deadly laughter. Old fool, he said. Old fool, this is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now and curse in vain. And with that he lifted high his sword and flames ran down the blade. Now this bit's interesting, right? Because who knows what would have happened if the Witch King and Gandalf fought, because Gandalf did exactly the same things to the Balrog. And the Balrog kind of seemed halted by it for a little bit. And it kind of worked, like the bridge broke and what have you. But we don't ever find out, because at that point the Rohirrim arrive. It's at that exact moment that the horns blare and you hear the Rohirrim. And in the film, it's to the best music ever. And when we see the concert, you'll see that, and you'll probably see me weep like a child. But another thing I wanted to say interesting here is that when Gandalf says, "Go back to the abyss prepared for you, go back, fall into the nothingness that awaits you and your master," that's Gandalf essentially saying the plan for you is the abyss. It's the abyss that Morgoth is in. And I think, I can't remember what episode I mentioned it in, but about like the afterlife in Middle Earth. I think it was Hell, actually, Hell in Middle Earth, about being cut off from creation entirely. So at some point, it's probably the Nazgûl, Sauron, and Morgoth in the fucking void, just doing nothing. Which, yeah. But anyway, he takes off immediately from Gandalf. Like, he goes away from Minas Tirith because he realizes that Theoden is a big threat. So he mounts his fell beast and he attacks Theoden. Theoden's horse catches a dart in its side and crushes Theoden under it. So Éowyn, one of the best characters ever, hands down, like, such a well-written character. She fights over Theoden's corpse, like, over his body, and she kills the fell beast and gets her arm broken for her troubles. And then Merry stabs the Witch King in the back of the leg with the sword he was given by Tom Bombadil. So the sword, made and buried with the Prince of Cardolan by the Dunedain, specifically to fight the Witch King, has found its way at the battlefield in Gondor, the Pelennor, where Merry, who is not a man, and Éowyn, who is not a man, stab him. So Merry stabs him in the back of the leg.
Thank you, Tolkien.
Merry stabs him in the leg, and then Éowyn stabs him right in the face, ending him. And it said in a footnote of letter 246, written by Tolkien, that the Witch King had been reduced to impotence as opposed to dying. So I think that's exactly what happens to Sauron and Saruman, where they're left either to consign to the abyss or the void like Morgoth, or they're left to wander the world as shadows, unable to act. And it's through this that the prophecy for the death of the Witch King of Angmar is fulfilled, because the broad strokes are that a woman, who is not a man, and a hobbit, who is not a man, kill the Witch King of Angmar.
So beautiful.
And I would like to end with another passage from the books, which Éowyn says, "Begone, foul Dwymelech, Lord of Carrion, leave the dead in peace." A cold voice answered, "Come not between the Nazgûl and his prey, or he will not slay thee in thy turn. He will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation, beyond all darkness, where thy flesh shall be devoured, and thy shriveled mind be left naked to the lidless eye." A sword rang as it was drawn. "Do what you will, but I will hinder it, if I may." "Hinder me, thou fool. No living man may hinder me." Then Merry heard of all the sounds in that hour the strangest. It seemed that Dernhelm laughed, and the clear voice was like the ring of steel. "But no living man am I. You look upon a woman, Éowyn. I am Éomun's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and kin. Begone, if you be not deathless, for living are dark undead. I will smite you if you touch him." Then the winged creature screamed at her, but the ring-wraith made no answer and was silent, as if in sudden doubt. And
you really need to stop smoking.
Yeah, and that's how he ends. Which I enjoyed researching this episode. There is a fuckload of history in this one.
Yeah.
My God, you kind of think that like
this is what I'm here for. The history.
the history, but it's mental. Like, he spanned that long. Like, he's at least like 4,000 years old, something like that, 3,000-4,000 years old, which is a long time. When we got to the point where the Battle of Fornost, where Fornost falls, and then Eärnur goes to Minas Morgul, and you realise there's still 1,000 years until Aragorn becomes King of Gondor and Arnor. It's just like, it's fucking crazy. And no wonder the Shire gets forgotten. If it was in Arthedain, which was Arnor, which was then splintered into the splintered into the three kingdoms, then falls, then the line of kings is broken. Yeah, no wonder the Shire goes undiscovered for so long. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on. Yeah, it's great, but yeah, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about your knowledge of the Witch King of Angmar after that?
I still am clinging onto the fact that he could totally just be free, single, ready to mingle naked all of the time.
Like he's hanging dong.
Yeah, but he's very true and noble, and he wears his clothes. I also think it's a beautiful moment that a woman defeats him and also a hobbit, but I think he's also incredibly knowledgeable about war strategy. It's quite impressive. I've got a lot of respect for him in terms of he he's clearly where he is because of the knowledge that he has, which is, you can only respect that. You can't knock that whatsoever.
Well, it's like the special forces, kind of like Sauron special, because he was already great amongst men before he became a ring wraith.
Yeah,
right?
And also it would be interesting to know why he chose not to go on to the halls of Mandos.
I don't know if by that point he'd have been utterly under Sauron's will and dragged into the wraith world anyway, so like he'd be there almost
But
against his
is
will.
it because you've been convinced, or is it because you already have some sort of badness in you and you kind of just need another little tug to...
I don't know, that's up for debate, because regardless of whether you're good or evil in the beginning, Sauron's
grasp will get you.
Yeah, it gets you if he's got the ring. So you could it's
and
like
he might have approached him.
Do you know what? In fact, it's already answered for us. Gandalf says when he's offered the One Ring by Frodo, Gandalf says that I would take it with the view to do good.
Yeah, bad intentions.
But through me, it would wield a power too terrible.
Yeah.
So it's exactly like that. Like the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
So he could potentially have been a Gandalf character if he'd had a different path. So
it could have been as simple as, right, he was a noble king or someone from a royal line who was offered an innocent gift of a nice, beautiful jeweled ring by Anatar, what Sauron called himself at the time, Anatar, Lord of Gifts, saying he is this gift on behalf of the Valar, and you just took it, and then all of a sudden
hooked.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a heroin addict.
I've got a riddle for you. What do the Witch King of Angmar and Ents have in common?
They're like sticking their fingers in holes. I don't know.
No.
Is it not as exciting as that?
I don't know. I think it's quite exciting that they both come from Macbeth, or suspiciously,
Macbeth.
A suspicious amount of things come from Macbeth. So,
did you make that up just because I'm going to see Macbeth?
No, I didn't know you were going to see Macbeth. Right, the prophecy that the Witch King would fall not by the hand of man, and the fulfillment of the prophecy occurring on a technicality, i.e., like being killed by a woman and a hobbit. This is from Tolkien Gateway. Bears a striking resemblance to the prophecy regarding regarding Macbeth, where it says that Macbeth will be slain not by a man born of woman, and then killed by Macduff, who was from a Caesarean section. And then this is also very similar to our Ents episode, where Tolkien was annoyed with the idea that there was that prophecy about the trees, or the trees of this certain forest killing someone, and it was because the enemy soldiers had hid behind the branches that they'd cut off of the trees and moved with them. So yeah, that's two parts of Tolkien, Lord of the Rings type things that come from Macbeth. A suspicious part of it comes from Macbeth. But I don't know, like, is it? It's not really suspicious if it's Shakespeare, is it? You know, can't really fault anyone for that. Yeah, but anyway, that is.
It's been a long one, but a good one.
It's been a good one. Aye, it's been a lot of history. There.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this one.
Oh, good. There's been a bit of demand for this one. There's been a few people who don't know each other or anything like that who've messaged saying like, I want to hear more about the Witch King and stuff like that. So
I think he's
it's
a strong guy.
Yeah. Do you know more about him now than you did at the start?
Definitely.
Good. So, right, we're going to wrap up here. Like I said, go check out the link in the bio. Donate to my fundraiser if you can. It's open until September, so don't feel any immediate pressure, because, you know, you might be like, I want to see how this turns out, fat boy. I want to see what kind of miles you're putting in. Absolutely. I would urge you to go and look at the Just Giving page anyway, because you'll see my my training runs pop up, because Strava syncs the activities, and I think it keeps the total count of the miles I've ran while training, so that should be pretty cool. And then hopefully on the day it fucking jumps up by another 13.
Well, you did that run, didn't you? Where
I did one yesterday. Yeah.
No, but I mean, you did that where you had to run like the Shire or something.
Oh, I'm still doing that, the Conqueror Challenge.
Yeah.
I did the Shire one, and I'm now on the next bit to Moria, and it's fucking long because there's a story mode where you can just do like the abridged version. I was like, no, fuck that. I want the full one, so it's like 1,000 kilometers or something. Anyway, right. Yeah, so let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know if there's anything I've missed, anything that you have questions about.
Let me know if I have to drink less wine next time.
Yeah. Come and find me on Instagram. You can see all the shitty memes I post, some law stuff, just have a good chat. There's a lot of people who come and just chat to me on Instagram, which is really nice. But yes, so for this week, it has been a good one. So I am out. So that's goodbye from me, Chris.
And Goodbye from Rebecca. I can't even
Bye.
speak.
Bye.